The power of Zyrtec.
Here's your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
Flooding is a major problem today as Hurricane Floyd makes its way up the East Coast.
And here on the south shore of Long Island, the rain and the wind has already moved through. We've had some reports of power outages out in Suffolk County, and I'm Jim Cantori in Nassau County. But I'll give you a live report in just a moment.
Floyd is dumping record amounts of rain, which is in effect ending the drought, but causing problems of a different variety with lots of flooding. Good afternoon and welcome to this special edition of Weather Center. I'm Paul Emick. We'll have complete conditions across the country, including some stormy weather into portions of Arizona. But first, let's get right to the forecast center with Rich Johnson. He has the latest on Floyd.
All right, thank you, Paul. We do continue to follow Floyd. Floyd now making its way up the eastern seaboard off the mid-Atlantic coast. It will be moving very rapidly, bringing lots of rain across the mid-Atlantic and to New England. Let me share with you some of the latest information that we do have concerning some of the states and some of the effects. The storm has been blamed for 4 deaths in North Carolina. All are believed to be traffic related. Hurricane has halted or delayed flights and trains all along the East Coast, causing chaos for thousands of travelers. Also, roads have been closed up and down the East Coast due to flooding. In Washington, D.C., congressmen, federal workers, and school children stayed home in the nation's capital today. In New York, the New York Stock Exchange stayed open, but other financial markets shut down earlier. And all across the region, sporting events have been impacted. The BC Open Golf Tournament was washed out, as was the Baltimore Orioles game against the Oakland A's, of course, there at Camden Yards. Well, that sort of gives you an idea of some of the impacts so far from Floyd. Let me share with you the latest information. And that center circulation associated with that area of yellow right in through here, rapidly making its way up the coast. So no doubt about it, Floyd is accelerating, moving rapidly northeast now as of the latest advisory from 2 p.m. north-northeast at 29 miles per hour. At that point, it was east of Chincoteague, Virginia. That was just south of the Maryland border on the Atlantic coast. Right now, it is definitely farther north than that. Hurricane warning still out across portions of the northeast coast and mid-Atlantic coast. It is very possible at 5 p.m. these could be eliminated. We'll have to wait and see exactly what the Hurricane Center says at 5 p.m. And looking at our tropical storm advisories, that's what we have. Still many locations could experience tropical storm conditions. So that's sort of a summary of what is happening with the latest on our Floyd making its way up the coast. Right now, though, we have Dr. Greg Forbes. He is our severe storms expert here at the Weather Channel. Greg, we've been following the system. We've been talking a little bit about flooding today. Tell us about some of the different kinds of flooding, like the river flooding as opposed to just the heavy rain street flooding.
You're exactly right, Rich. There's a couple kinds. There's the kind that's flash flooding. That means it's raining very hard right now and running off very quickly. And then there's the more prolonged event, the river flooding, that occurs days later as all of those small tributaries, the water from them converges into the bigger streams and rivers and causes a crest that flows very slowly downstream. Those crests in North Carolina might not occur till Monday or Tuesday.
And we do have flash flood watches out for a large portion of the Mid-Atlantic and right on down into the Virginia area where there are some flash flood warnings. Greg, tell us a little bit about where flooding will be expected tonight.
Flooding now will still continue to occur from active rainfall from basically Delaware and New Jersey inland up through the eastern part of and southeastern part of Pennsylvania, southern part of New York, Connecticut, and up into Massachusetts.
All right, thanks, Greg. Again, Dr. Greg Forbes with us, our severe storm analyst here at the Weather Channel. Right now, though, we do have crews up and down the eastern seaboard covering Floyd. We have Jim Cantori. He's stationed at Point Lookout on the south shore of Long Island. Also, Bill Keneally at Solomon's Island, Chesapeake Bay Country there in Maryland. Bill, tell us what you have there in Maryland.
Well, Rich, we were lulled into a false sense of drier security, I guess. I thought the rain was about done with. I have no access to a radar, so as my intuitiveness failed me again. Rain is upon us, a west wind blowing. Drier times are ahead, folks, and a lot of folks here in southern Maryland could sure use it. I'll show you some of the video now from the area. Quite a bit of tree down, and we have trees down on power lines here, so a lot of power outages, a lot of cable TV outages in the area. The wind's probably topping off around 65 miles per hour, about 3 hours ago, I'd say. And that was when it was more of a north wind. Now, more of a northwest winds, but still holding its own, I'd say, in that 50 miles per hour. So hopefully we're going to look at some better times as there's an awful lot of standing water out there. Check out this frame. We haven't had standing water in a long comparing July to August to September, just a monumental difference. Less than an inch in July, better than 2.5 in August, and now pushing a foot in September, and we're only halfway there. So, Rich, the old saying, be careful what you wish for, surely applies here along the Pax River in southern Maryland. Back to you.
All right, Bill, let's head up the coast to the south shore of Long Island. Jim Cantori is going to give us the latest. Jim?
And we are in the wonderful little town of Point Lookout here, where, as you can see behind me, we are right on the ocean here. Actually, we're in a little bit of an inlet, I should say, because Jones Beach is off to my left. And believe it or not, we're actually being protected from some of the strongest waves. And as you look from what Randy Frostig, my photographer, is panning out at, some huge white-capped waves well offshore, and they are coming in and occasionally crashing on the jetty here. So that is definitely causing some problems in its own right. Now, because of this wind kicking up, Rich, it's a near tropical storm force. We are getting some sporadic power outages out in Suffolk County, and here in Nassau County, so far so good. But we do anticipate power loss, and as a result of that, in both counties, shelters have been open. Well, I want to bring in Mr. Don Kelly, who is a resident of Point Lookout, also a historian. Don, you want to show us a picture of what you dealt with, I guess, back in the 1950 era?
1951 in October, we had a nor'easter, which was sustained, and you can see from the photo that the houses that were where we're standing were just literally washed away.
And what, how is that area now? Where, I mean, is it built back up? Or?
Absolutely. In the 60s, we did a big revetment, and we put in a lot of dunes to our left, and literally that has stopped any tidal surge since then, so it's worked.
Now, you seem to think nor'easters are worse than hurricanes. Why is that?
I never lived through a real big hurricane, and northeasters are sustained, and that's why I think they're worse.
All right, thank you very much again, Don Kelly. Things a lot different way back in the 1950s, and since then we've got a nice beach as well as some huge dunes to protect this area. Well, we'll see what Floyd has to bring us tonight as the wind and I'm sure some more rain bands begin to move on in. We'll keep you posted here from the south shore of Long Island. Back to you, Rich.
All right, Jim, thanks a lot. Now let's head over to our expert desk with Dr. Steve Lyons. We've been following the wind, the waves, actually a little bit of a storm surge earlier today around Norfolk. Dr. Lyons, give us the latest on what you have with Floyd.
Well, it continues to move off to the northeast at a fast clip. Now, one thing to keep in mind, it's moving offshore now, and the western side of the circulation, you would expect northerly wind flow. it's moving so fast to the northeast that that northerly wind flow is reduced. So we're seeing the winds actually dropping off and becoming quite a bit weaker. Let's look at the visible satellite imagery here, and I'll show you what I mean. Circulation center somewhere in here, and it's moving very quickly up to the northeast. Here, you would add the motion of the system to the wind field. Here, where the wind is coming around this way, you would subtract the motion. So basically what you get is a wind field that's much weaker here than it is out over the water. Not to mention the water surface friction is much weaker, so we have most of the strong winds out over the water, but even out over the water, we're not seeing winds all that strong. We're seeing them looking very close to tropical storm force rather than hurricane force. Nevertheless, they're still very potent, and there's very large waves heading toward the New England coast and the coast of Long Island, and you can see those shallow areas out there. That's a very protective way to save the dunes on the coast, is to have waves break way out a mile offshore. Here's our time frame, and it may actually speed up, but right now we're looking at being offshore from New York sometime later this evening, and then early tomorrow morning all the way off the coast past Cape Cod. Now, rainfall totals have continued to accumulate to the north, but to the south it looks like Washington, you're pretty much done with a lot of the heavy rain anyway, and all down to the south it stopped accumulating south of this line. Still a little accumulating to the north, but as we go farther to the north, we've got more accumulations up to the north, and that's going to continue up here in Baltimore and farther up to the north, a little bit longer up into the White Plains as well. So what we're really looking at here is rainfall accumulating farther to the north, storm surge to the north. Right now we've got a Category 1, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Hurricane Center wouldn't downgrade the system to a tropical storm at 5. We'll have to wait and see what they have to say about it. Back to the studio now.
All right, thank you, Steve. Again, that's Dr. Steve Lyons, our hurricane expert at the expert desk. President Clinton believes evacuations were a necessary evil when it came to Hurricane Floyd. President Clinton made his remarks earlier this afternoon at a meeting with the emergency management officials.
But I think that this was a terrific test, even though it was extremely burdensome, because someday our ability to do this evacuation will save hundreds of people's lives.
And now let's head back to our studio. Just a reminder, first of all, if you're going to be away from the TV, you want to stay updated with the storm or anything with weather, check it out on your online service at weather.com. Now let's talk to Paul Emick. He's in the studio with more about the forecast.
All right, thanks so much, Rich. Across the western U.S., a few showers and storms. Otherwise, high pressure guarantees us a great night. Chicago, Indianapolis, too, even toward Detroit. But in the southwest, a different story. Severe thunderstorm watch into portions of Arizona. You have severe thunderstorm warnings now around Coconino County. So expect the activity to be a little bit on the intense side here at times across the western U.S., where these showers and storms continue to pop up. Otherwise, into portions of the plains, a little bit wet into Kansas, also into portions of Texas, including the Panhandle. We've been dealing with at least some light rain off and on. Some occasional soaking showers, too, have caused us some concern. Let's look at our weather picture coast to coast. We've looked at all the activity. Now let's see where we go from here. In the forecast for the northeast, we've got more rainfall, of course. In the western U.S., scattered showers and storms. Looking good towards Chicago and Indy. But in the northeast, the incredibly heavy rain continues to be a big problem. The system will continue to exit onto the north, but we'll still be dealing with lingering effects into Friday evening, and the wind probably into Saturday. Between now and about midnight, though, 5 to 10 inches will not at all be uncommon. Here's a look at Friday's heat. Temperatures pretty warm in the west, but cooler in the northeast. On the way, we'll look at the travel conditions with TravelWise after your local forecast.
You gotta stop right there. Good girl.
Today, I'm giving my daughter her first driving lesson. I'm Howard Simpson.